Why is your OCD and anxiety symptoms morphing? This is more than likely one of the biggest and most common questions I get all times. I can't think of a single person I've worked with over the years, thousands of people between the webinars, coaching, questions on social media, where people, if they've been working on recovery long enough, this has not happened to them. It's part of the deal. It's part of the unconditional life acceptance. The unconditional life acceptance of the OCD cycle itself and how it morphs to pull you back into its grips. It does not want you better. OCD wants you stuck. Your anxiety disorders, your CPTSD/PTSD, your GAD, your panic disorder, your body dysmorphic disorder, your CRPS, your TMS, all your pain fears, your IBS, your dizziness, your vertigo, whatever fears you have, does not want you to get better. It wants you to stay stuck forever. It wants you analyzing. It wants you ruminating. And it's very clever. It's very cheeky. It's cheeky and tricky to bring you back. So before I go any further, please subscribe. Hit that like button down below. Phil at OCDrecovery.com. And before we jump into anything, let me talk about one thing. Humor is very important for OCD and anxiety recovery. You do not have to become a stand-up comedian. But if you cannot take a joke, if you cannot laugh at puns and innuendos about your fears, regardless of the severity of the morality of it, religious, POCD, if you cannot poke fun, your chances of OCD and anxiety recovery are extremely diminished because you will always be on edge and taking everything as an offense, which is understandable. Okay, let me tell you how my journey operated. It started with tinnitus. Okay, now I had really bad mild OCD in the 2010 era. 2010 to 2019, when I got chronic, my mild OCD and my compulsions avoidance were building. I missed out on a lot of opportunities in my life. I always tell a story. I might not even be married to my wife. There's a girl I more than likely would probably be married to if I didn't have such bad avoidance behaviors. She wanted me to stay at her house. We had sex for the first time. We were childhood friends. And I didn't want to stay with her because I didn't want to miss my macros in the morning. And we never spoke again. Now she's married with kids and everything, and we had such a good connection. And I threw that out the drain, threw it out the window, down the drain, because of my fears. So think about that. Wasn't chronic at the time, still took a lot from my life. Because you hear that. I have mild OCD. It doesn't morph that much. It's not taking a lot from my life. Yeah, it is. You just don't realize it. You don't have the light guiding you because of the chronic symptoms. So start with tinnitus. June, July, August, September, October. So for 5 months, I had 24/7 fears of tinnitus. Okay, I've been to music festivals my whole life, going to Ultra Miami forever, been having EDCs, having techno shows. I listen to, the volume of my car goes up to 63 max. It's on 63 at all times. Okay, I'm going to be the grandfather that screams for the rest of his fucking life because I can't hear shit. And it started with that, all the checking, all the American Tinnitus Association websites, all the recovery stories, all the typical compulsions. Then it went to blinking. Doom, 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 doom. Just boom, boom, boom. Blinking lasted primarily for 4 weeks. Then I was taking a sip of water. It went to saliva and swallowing, and that stayed lasted for 2 years. By November, I was in the mental hospital 2019. Did not want to live anymore. So, and as I got over, and when I mean got over, I mean I accepted the presence of the sensation with no avoidance behaviors for that specific one, it would morph. So it went from tinnitus to blinking, to saliva and swallowing with blinking, to saliva swallowing, to the saliva swallowing, blinking with bodily sensation, major hyper-awareness. How my shirt felt on my body, how my belt felt. I was aware when I was talking to you, so if I was looking at you right now, it wasn't me looking at Nick. It was me in the mind of my belt. Oh my God, am I fat? Does it feel this way? Oh my God, I'm gaining weight. How's my shirt feeling? Is it that? And then the rest of the world. Whilst being aware of my blinking, whilst being aware of all the saliva pooling in my mouth. You know, as I always joke and say, if this is a hose or a Capri Sun pack, it feels like this. All the time. Hi, yes, my name is Nick. It feels like I'm drowning in my own saliva. So I had that all the time. And then it morphed around to all sorts of different mini things. Bridge of my nose, notice my nose a lot. It would see my eyebrows. What else would I see? I gotta be talking to someone and using my hands, and I would just be noticing my hands like this, like DPDR. I had DPDR for years. I had depersonalization and derealization pretty much lasted for almost half a decade in some capacity. I felt like I was just in a video game. I had full acceptance of it, even though I fully accept it and I had no avoidance behaviors, because the rest of my OCD cycle in different ways was going on, it still primarily stayed latched. It wasn't until all my compulsions, all my avoidance behaviors were gone where I got to where I am today. And by the way, I know you hear this all the time. You can recover from OCD, and OCD means XYZ to me. It's the most bullshit nonsense statement ever. OCD has one definition. It's recovery, baseline peace. Yes, you have the genetics. Yes, it can pop up, maybe minute here, minute there. Something goes wrong in your life. 99% of the time, you cannot tell that you have OCD. It's like I never had sensory motor OCD. It's not that I'm not aware of I'm an athlete. If I'm in the mountains and hiking at 3,000 meter elevation, of course I'm the 4,000 meter. I'm going to notice it, but I'm not afraid of noticing that sensation. So that's why the goal is not to get rid of it. And also, with people saying you can recover whilst doing some compulsions, that's like saying you can be alcohol-free while drinking alcohol. That's like saying you're recovered from a hard drug whilst you're doing that hard drug. No, there has to be no compulsions and no avoidance behaviors left based around that with complete uncertainty, unconditional self-life, other acceptance. Until you get there, your fears will morph. And they're going to morph a lot. And they morph in different ways. I'll give you some examples about how it will seem really tricky. So let's say that you are suffering with existential OCD. You've been making a lot of progress when it comes to the fear of being alone, the fear of being the only person on the planet, the fear of being in the vacuum, and then something happens. You fail a test at school, and all of a sudden, you have fear of rejection based around school. No! And that's how it goes. You start getting over that. Existential goes to the background. You go into a test. You've been doing really well. I'm accepting myself. I fail. You feel really good. And in the middle of the test, existential comes back and blinking. Boing, 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 boing. Holy shit, I can't see anything. This is what it does. OCD has no rules. I'll say that again. OCD has no rules. And because it has no rules, it can do whatever, whenever it wants. And it can do it at the highest intensity, the strongest capacity, the velocity of the triggers can come like a machine gun. Dun, 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 dun. POCD, harm, 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 existential. Dun, 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 dun. With no rhyme or right reason. And you wake up and you feel pretty good one day. And you have a couple weeks of feeling pretty good. I'm good. No more calls ever again. Message me. No more calls, Nick. I'm good. I'm over this now. You can already tell just if someone's saying that, they're looking at it like a game. You know they're not over it. And then, boom, fully latched. Back in it completely. That's how it operates. You know you're doing really good with unconditional life acceptance. That's what the morphing is, life acceptance, as it's morphing and shifting and changing, and you're not trying to get rid of it. And when it's morphing at full capacity and no one around you knows that you're suffering because you're so good at bottling it up, fuck, you are doing a good job at that. And that is fire, okay? That's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to get that right. It's like the unicycle. If I ask you, go ride a unicycle up a hill blindfolded whilst juggling. If you could do that right the first time, you should be in the Guinness Book of World Records. But from an analogy's sake standpoint, you're not going to. You're going to get 3 millimeters before you fall in your face. Ooh, I have a spasm in my back. I made a video for the group this morning. I strained my lat doing the skier. So every time I cough or do something, it's like I'm being stabbed. So there goes morphing symptoms right there. It's like I was eating last night. Every time I swallow something like that, the pain gets so bad in that spot. So, but that's just the way the world works. Unconditional life acceptance. You're going to get injured in your life if you play sports. Things are going to morph around. Your kids are going to get sick. Your parents are going to die if you don't die before them. You might lose a brother or a sister or a spouse. Your business might go bankrupt. Life morphs around. It's not just your OCD symptoms. Life is morphing at all times. And your unconditional self-acceptance for that is a key component of your OCD and anxiety recovery. We can help you. Please reach out, phil@ocdrecovery.com. You do not have to sit in silence. We can help break down your fears. We can show you. We can guide you. We have all been there. We are all severe ex-convict, ex-OCD sufferer. I'm such a loser. Can't be a loser. I'm a person with loser-ish tendencies. There we go. Acceptance. As always, enjoy the rest of your day.